Jack, this is the third time we've attempted to film this podcast. It's a really important one to us. It's actually the main message of why we started the podcast. And something triggered me just the other day. As you know, Jack, I went out for dinner just the other night with a really close friend, and he's younger. He's about 21. And he sat down at the dinner and he kind of opened up his heart to me. And he just said, Jesse, I'm really not enjoying my work. He's working 9 to 5 in a trade. He's up at 4:30 in the morning, working really hard. And he said to me, I want to take on a business for myself, become an entrepreneur, I guess. But he just didn't know what that world looked like. And it really triggered me because that's the whole reason we're here, trying to help people like that. And we sat down and came together and realized we needed to make a podcast episode on this.
Yeah, this is something we come across so often, Jesse, as people stuck in jobs that they don't enjoy and are living a life that they feel like could be so much more. And that is what we're trying to do on this podcast. So it came in a very timely manner for us to sit back and think, all right, cool. How do we go about making an episode out of this and trying to help those people like your friend that you caught up with last night? So obviously there's a big difference between having those thoughts. Lots of people have those thoughts in their minds of, I want to do this. I'm not happy here, but they often remain just as just thoughts.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference to actually taking action and making that happen. So that's the main value that we want to bring today, is showing you guys, maybe stepping you out, some things that have worked for us, some things to think about to help you actually go and take that leap.
Definitely. And I think we're going to dive into 3 distinct things that we know helped us on our journeys. But before we do that, I just really want to touch on this point. It's important before we dive right in. We're not going to guarantee success if you follow your own job. And I actually think the figures show likely you won't be successful.
Correct.
So that's going to be put clear. And the last thing I want to add there is we can only guarantee one thing. I think it's the most critical thing. It's learning. So on average, if you're working in a 9 to 5 among a group of people, you probably have a very specialized task that you do most days. Whereas when you enter your own business, you are, especially if you're on your own, you have to wear about 20 hats.
Yep.
You're going to learn thick and fast. And I can almost guarantee you'll learn more in your 9 to 5 in that 1 year of that solo job, in the business you take on. You'll learn more in that 1 year than you probably would in 5 or 10. That's just my experience. I could be wrong. And I'm sure there's a few people listening getting a bit riled up. Oh, I learned a lot in my 9 to 5. But I'm telling you, the responsibility it's like nothing else I've ever felt.
Yeah, 100%. No, everything's on you. You're forced to go and figure shit out. Otherwise, you don't have a business, or it's your rent, or it's...
Yeah, it's very sink or swim.
It's sink or swim. Yeah, thank you, Jesse, for jumping in there for me. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of your friend the other night, doing something. He's young, he's doing something he doesn't enjoy, wants to go start his own thing, start a business. How does he do it? So this is obviously the elephant in the room.
We always talk about this one word, Jack. The word's time. I think time is everything for one who, especially someone who's working 40 hours a week. You don't have much time. You're probably run down. My friend told me he's sleeping 4 hours a night for the last 2 months. Like, that was a shock to me. And you're just not in a great headspace, especially in his case. But time is normally your worst enemy if you're working in a 9 to 5 and you want to move into something else.
Yeah, you only have so much energy to spend on things, right? And if that's sucked into these 9-10 hours every day doing the same thing, it's going to be hard to spread yourself out and come up with ideas and think creatively. And that is ultimately what you need to do, or you need to start nurturing those ideas and kind of chunk together time to actually spend on that. Just like you go and spend that time doing that job, you're obviously pretty good at that job because you spend the time doing it. And this is the exact same thing. You got to go and spend the time building whatever is next for you. You can't just expect it to happen as soon as you quit that job.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the next thing that's just as critical is the environment you're in. There's a great saying, you're the average sum of your 5 best friends, or the 5 people you spend the closest amount of time with.
Yeah.
So
time.
Majority of people I've spoken to, and I've spoken to a few hundred people that have tried to make this leap. We've had to make this leap into the industry we're in. Often that sum of 5 people, the majority of them aren't in their own entrepreneurial lane. Society tends to work in 9 to 5s is what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's worth noting on top of that, that those people that are probably doing what you want to do or what you're aspiring to do, they're probably not going to come within your close circle. So they're probably not going to be a close friend. They're probably not going to be a family member. So that's where you really have to get out of your current environment, put yourself in new environments, whether that is a business, whether that's a creative field, and reach out to people. And once you immerse yourself in that environment, you'll be amazed at the doors that open up. But as long as you're stuck in whether it's a 9 to 5 or another job that you don't want to be doing, and you're committing time to that, you're only going to have so much time to go and explore those other avenues.
Absolutely. And often it's spending time with someone who's done it that opens your eyes, because you'll see they're just like you. They eat the same food. They live in the same area. And then you go, holy shit, this is what they did to make that leap. It's not so far away. I can do it.
Yep.
Now, the third thing, Jack, is more a tangible step. I think it's finding some flexible work hours.
Mm-hmm.
So a job that can cater to give you the time you need. So personally, I used to work in promotional work, which tends to be for companies like, say, Pepsi. I worked a lot for handing out free Pepsi Maxes at university campuses. Sounds like a pretty shit job, but the reality is you work 20 hours a week max. You're making good money doing it. These big companies pay a fair per hourly rate. And to be honest, I can even remember, this is a true story. I used to bring my previous brand's t-shirts down to those things, and I'd hand them out for free at the campuses. So double up.
Doesn't surprise me.
Well, you got to do things like that. But you did
so I was disability support
That's right.
worker, and similar to Jesse's, just a flexible job, paid well at an hourly rate. But the main thing is it allowed me the flexibility to just work 20 hours a week and then spend the rest of the week chipping away at a business, which was in our case business, but it could be another creative passion or trying to get into another field of work.
Jack, this is vital because we've got to make this clear. Please do not go cold turkey.
Yeah.
Do not leave your 9 to 5 and just jump straight into a pursuit. That is the fastest way for it all to go to shit.
Yeah, you put a lot of stress, a lot of pressure on yourself. It's not the way to go. So we would recommend trying to find a bit of a middle ground, whether that's scaling back your 5 days a week to 3, or finding a flexible job that allows you 40 hours a week to spend, building this business or this idea. That is extremely important. I couldn't urge you guys to do that enough if that is something you're thinking about, because then that's going to allow you to sit with yourself, figure out, step back from that job and think, who am I? What do I want? Because those are the two questions you got to ask yourself before exploring something else.
Well said. And to conclude that, it's okay to go 2 steps back, because you're trying to go 10 forward.
Yeah, this is important.
From like a financial standpoint, and that is probably the smallest part of this podcast today. I really couldn't give two shits about making money from either sides of whatever job you partake. But what I'm trying to say here is, if you think about the 9 to 5 jobs you work in or your family work in, typically it's going to be a really linear projection. You might make a 5-10% increase year on year if you're lucky. Whereas if you go 2 steps back, you make half the payment because you're now working less hours of that job. But in 2 years' time, this side hustle turns into your real life thing. That is how you will make a substantial wage.
Yeah, it's all about trade-offs. You can't expect to have it all. Like, you are trading ultimately probably financial security for a career that you love and you enjoy and you're motivated to get up every day for. So, you wouldn't be thinking like this if you enjoyed your job, right? So you obviously don't enjoy your job and you want to find something more. And so this is one of those steps back that you have to take in order to have that long term. So you have to be willing to take that step back.
Yeah. And definitely do not compare yourself to your friends that are working in those 9 to 5s, because yes, they will be making more money. Again, back to money, root of all evil. And do not compare your wage. You're going backwards. You have to be clear that that's what this is.
It's just different. Like, you want different things to those people. So that's just how you have to look at it and stay in your lane and kind of put the blinkers on in some respects to try and shut that out.
That also might look like missing the occasional event, not going on the occasional holiday with the groups. You know what I mean? If you're not going to be able to just spend that money freely anymore because you're taking less hours. Anyway, I want to conclude this by talking about risk, Jack. A lot of listeners we can see are young. We have a very youthful audience. Majority of those people would be living at home still or paying a modest rent. I think that is the best time to take a risk like this.
Yeah, no doubt, Jesse. When you're young, you have less responsibility, you have more time up your sleeve. That is the best time. If you are one of those people, now's the time. 100% now's the time. You don't want to be waking up at 60, regretting the last 40 years of what you've done and thinking what could have been.
60 or, even 30 when you have a mortgage, potentially kids, a wife, the responsibility will come in life. And again, I haven't got there personally yet, but I have older siblings and I've seen it with older friends. Responsibility is real in life and it comes fast. Do not wake up one day and go, God, I'd love to try that small business idea that I have, but I have a kid and he needs to go through school and he needs to be paid and cared for. So this is the time, guys. And
I think another, just quickly before we wrap this up, is another really important thing I want to add is that, yes, these are some steps or some things to think about when leading up to taking a jump like this, in terms of whether that's quitting that job and starting a new profession or starting that business. But that doesn't mean that taking that step or that leap is easy. It is so fucking hard. It's probably the hardest thing you'll ever do. Jesse and I'm sure, can attest to that. It doesn't make what you're doing or thinking about easy, but just believe me on this, that it will be worth it in the long run if you stay and you chip at it, and eventually you will get there. So just keep that in mind. It's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows.
Well said, man. I'm glad you touched on that to finish. It's very lonely. People around you, your closest friends and family, are going to question you. That'll likely happen. That's uncomfortable. You have to accept that. That's all part of this. And as we said, this is a long-term play. We live in a world with social media, instant gratification, constant just flurry of dopamine. This is not that. This is seriously long-term. Most people won't see what you see. Be aware of that. And guys, if you have any more questions, contact us. We are always here for you.
Thank you, guys.